Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hi. How are you? Nice to see you. You been? You want me to reclaim being the host then? Okay.
Are you great?
Is that working? Oh, I have to let it use the camera. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, I have to zoom. So. Lenses. Okay, and then I need to switch the camera.
Yep. There you
Is that what's going out?
go. Stop sharing the screen from here.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oops. Oh, there it is. Yep. And then share that. Okay. Yeah.
Did you ask them what are they watching on the screen?
Oh. What do you think?
Just silence your microphone from the computer.
Do what now?
Mute your microphone.
Oh, from
Your mic. That was
But I've been asked about it like 4 times, like, yeah. Yes. It may not work.
Can you stand right there? Right.
Good afternoon. We'll start this in about 5 minutes, please.
I was.
Hopefully she doesn't learn it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, perfect. Those judgments. No, I'm trying to. Shots, but that's, you know, never called me back. But he's more like. Right? It's kind of like. Oh, okay. Not like me, that's where you know.
I sent Fort Collins out there. Okay, showed up with a 48 Nash convertible. And so I invited him up here. And it was his 95th birthday. But his kids are driving him and stuff. So anyway, they're thinking about it. One of these shows.
He said he has a 43 3-hour wagon. It's military.
Oh, okay.
He showed me a picture of it. He said, it's a site power wagon. He said, well, it was military. The military didn't have a town. The cab was just open. Not a good fight. Yeah. Down in Pioneer. So here, you bring the party down here, and they want to go through. So. Not like a hundred and road snow. Yeah, I'm gonna try to request off the live. If I put a request in now, we should.
That was
Yeah, I'll have to request some.
I got 30 and
10 a.m.
That'll be a busy guy.
I'm not gonna touch anything. I hit one button and I ended the soon, so I didn't reset. Really not good. Not advanced. I can think the words, but it's really complicated over here. I think Harold showed up for a second. I don't know. Oh, there. Even if the Zoom doesn't work. Yes. We might find. Really good. We should be all set up, so. They got all the water. I used to go every year. There was every on the world, whether it was a park or the awesome to really go We just need to find out. Just pass it. It's the one at Bob Park. A few years ago, it was just silver as the arm.
Oh,
The time it was raining and it rained on. It was like. Still up there? Really good. Yeah, I had no idea.
Driving in yeah.
and
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Quiet.
in clean glasses.
It's like that.
Quiet. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming. I'll introduce myself. I'm Kevin Bigler. I'm Deanna's son. Dawn Bigler, Deanna's daughter, is back in the back, and then my daughter Abby is next to Dawn. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you for being here today to celebrate the incredible life of my mom, Deanna. Though most of you likely knew her as DJ.
Can you talk into the mic? Needs to be loud for old people.
Never mind. I can get one.
Get you up here.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today to celebrate the incredible life of my mom, Deanna, but most of you know her as DJ. To know my mom was an experience of pure joy. She possessed the magical ability to make you feel like the most important person in the room. Somehow she managed to be that person for so many of us. Whether you were a lifelong friend, a neighbor, a guest at Cliffside Cottages that she and my dad run, or someone that you had just met at the grocery store, Mom made you feel like family. Mom was a woman of many passions. She was a huge fan of the Denver Broncos and a true animal lover. Yellow was her favorite color, and she loved it because it represented to her joy, happiness, and energy. She was also a nature lover and enjoyed watching the birds that visited her many feeders during the day, especially the hummingbirds during the summer. Mom was also a master quilter, demonstrating her love for her family by crafting quilts for all of us. Today we don't mourn her absence, we celebrate her spirit, because that's what Mom would want. She wouldn't want tears, though it's okay if we have them. She would want stories, laughter. She would want us to remember her, not with sadness, but with the same joy she freely gave to others. Before I conclude, I want to express my gratitude to a few people who have helped with this celebration of life. Chuck and Dale Bonza, you've been amazing, and I thank you for everything you've done. Dewey Shanks, he's often been very instrumental in getting this together.
Yeah.
And also Gene and Larry Anderson. Thank you very much. I also want to thank the entire Estes Park Car Club. You guys have supported her through many things, and she loved being part of the car club. So thank you. There's no way I can encapsulate everything that made my mom so special in just a few minutes. She had a remarkable way of touching people's lives in both big and small ways. And I know many of you have your own cherished memories and stories to tell. I'd love to open up the floor for sharing. If you have any funny story, heartwarming moment, or even just something that reminds you of her, please feel free to come forward, but I'll bring the mic to you and share it. This is a celebration of her life, and I know she'd be delighted to hear us all laugh and just about her together. Don't be shy, like she knows. And with that, if anybody has a story, I'll head your way.
I'm sorry, Murphy. I don't have a story, but I'd like to borrow one. Where's Craig? And I'm going to walk back and let Craig tell you the story of how he met Deanna in the 5th grade. You may have noticed they went to the same school together, same class. They've known each other since the 5th grade. And there's a story that some of you may have heard. I heard it for the first time just about a half an hour ago. And Craig knows what I'm talking about. I'm going to ask him to repeat the story to you, much the same as he did to me and to Chrissy.
I don't know if I need people usually hear my voice okay. Well, Deanna and I met in the 5th grade. Her dad worked for Dow Chemical and came back and worked in the Rocky Flats facility outside Boulder. Couldn't find a place to live, so they picked a place in Wheat Ridge. My father built his house in Wheat Ridge, and that's how we ended up in the same city. But Deanna and I met in the 5th grade, and we were in a class they called it the drama class, but I think the teacher was really interested in just getting us used to reading in front of groups. And so we had a little ditty to read, and Deanna happened to be sitting sort of in the chair next to me. As she went to sit down after she had said her piece, I pulled the chair out from under her. And so that was really our first occasion. She hit the floor. Unfortunately, she wasn't hurt at all. Well, we got home from school that night. She told her father about it. She told her mother and father about it. And she said she didn't know how, where, or when, but she was going to get even. Now, this is in the 5th grade, okay? Well, I went home and I thought I might be expelled. So I told my folks that they might have a trip to school to try to get me back in school. Of course, my father was not very sympathetic. And he said, I've taught you to treat women better than that. He says, I'm very upset with you. And he says, you're going to go to Deanna's and apologize to her, and you're going to apologize to her folks. They lived about a block and a half from us at the time. My folks had never met her folks, never met her. And I'd never met her folks. So I said, and he was going to drive me after dinner, and I thought that would really be embarrassing. So I'll ride my bicycle. And he said, I don't know that I can trust you. He says, I'm going to call Tara after you get home and check and see for sure that you went there to apologize. And so I said, okay, that would be okay. So I did. I rode my bike over to her house, knocked on the door. Her father came, and the first time I'd ever met him. He later, through time, became very, very close. Actually, our folks really built a relationship up. They both liked to square dance, and there was a place up on Lookout Mountain called the Lighted Lantern, if anybody goes back in years. Anyway, every Saturday they had square dancing, and my folks went up there all the time, every day, and found out later that Dean and Fran, Deanna's folks, were also square dancers. So that's kind of how they built their relationship. But anyway, I went to Deanna's house, knocked on the door. Dean came and answered it, and I introduced myself. And I told him that I'd come to apologize for Deanna. Of course, he didn't know about the event. And so he backed up. He very pleasant, ushered me into the living room and called Deanna. She was in the inner sections of the house. She came running up. She saw it was me. She wasn't very tickled about that. She proceeded to leave the room, and Dean stopped her and said, no, Craig's come to apologize to you, Deanna, you come here. And so she did. She turned around. I apologized to her and all that sort of thing. She stuck her nose in the air and she said, well, don't you ever do that again, and turned and walked out of the room. And Dean and I are standing there together, so I figured, well, this is over. So I turned around and headed for the door. Well, he followed me to the door, opened the door, and helped me out, and patted me on the back. And he says, son, he says, she said she was going to get even with you. He said, you better watch your back. So that's really the first real discussion her father and I ever had. Well, time passed. We went steady in high school, broke up sort of ways. We graduated our senior year. We really weren't dating even at the end of the school year. She stayed in Denver, went to opportunity school, and became a certified dental assistant. I went to CSU. Our freshman and sophomore year, we had very little, in fact, never even communicated. Well, time passed. Finally, in my junior year, through other things, she became engaged to another fellow. I became engaged to another girl. Both of them gave their rings back. Deanna did, and it was a Christmas time, and I happened to be with my fiance in Florida, and my mother was in Lakeside Shopping Center. Deanna happened to also be in Lakeside doing some shopping. So And she, of course, my mother and Deanna knew each other fairly well, and Deanna went up to her and said to her, I understand Craig has broken up. And my mother said, no, he's in Miami right now with her. So, not that she knew anything about it, but of course, on the way home, is when Georgine gave me my ring back. Mother had no idea that that had happened. Well, when I landed in Denver, my mother started in on me. She says, by the way, I saw Deanna in Lakeside Shopping Center, and she asked about you. And of course, I had told my mother that Georgine had given me the ring back. So she says, you need to call Deanna. And I said, yeah, well. And we went back to school. That was after vacation. And I'd come home from time to time, and mother would always say, did you call Deanna yet? Did you call Deanna yet? I said, no. And she says, well, you better do it. Well, I finally decided there was only one way in the world I was going to get my mother to quiet down. And so I called Deanna. So I went over to her house. She sat in the sofa on one side of the room, and I sat in a chair on the other side of the room, and we just chatted, which she was the best person to talk to you had ever met. She could find something that was worth talking about and make you feel like she was really interested in the relationship. But we found that we both enjoyed skiing. And so we decided, well, we would like to get together and go on weekend skiing. So that really started getting us back together. Well, finally, my junior year, I think it was like in April, I gave her a ring. And she went home. And she said to her dad, I told you I was going to get even with him. And she said, he asked me to marry him, and I said, yes. Who wants to say something about what they about that?
This part of the weekend, sort of people online. Thank you, all the folks that joined it online. I imagine many of you, yes, that have come here so many times over the years. So we're glad that you're online. Come back. I drove in this morning, bringing my car to the old car show, and I had one of these ambush moments. That happens when you're grieving. And I saw the cranberry purple PT Cruiser, and so many times where I've seen Deanna driving it up to our events and everything. And so that kind of helped bring me down to ground here to share with you how much we all love her. And I'm so glad to be with all of you. When I first started working with Craig and the family, I got to thinking too that there's just something so constant about her love and passion about this. And I went back to Corinthians 13:4. You've heard of this because they use it a lot at weddings. And to me, it just so characterizes Deanna, and I just want to share with you. Love is patient, kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. That's the end. And probably all of us. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
I don't have a speech written, but what I want to know, I miss her because she called me. I have Alzheimer's dementia, don't remember things. and don't have computer or internet, any of that fancy stuff. And she called up on the phone every week, and we got a train meeting, she'd tell me when and where. Or we're going for a ride, and she'd tell me when and where, and I missed the calls.
Is there, let's get some over there. We're gonna pause the cameraman
Get busy.
to, and hopefully all of you online can be here.
I'm kind of at the other end of the spectrum. Dale has known him for years and years, and so has Bill. I've only been here in Estes for 6 or 7 years now. But when I first came out here, Craig and Deanna kind of took me under their wing. In the car club, Craig would always invite and say, I'm going down to Loveland to a car show. So we go down. And Deanna was always so gracious and so good. And I'd go over to Craig's house and ask him for help putting something together because he could basically do everything and I was kind of humble figure. And I don't have anything in particular other than just how sincere she was. When I'd stop over at Cliffside, she'd always get a big smile on her face, even though I was interrupting her doing something. And she was just a wonderful, wonderful lady.
Mary is my significant other, and I've been a widow, so before I got the new one here. So I understand, I try to understand what Craig is going through, because it's really, really hard. And Craig had her for so many years. And we talked a little bit about it. And how he said, you know, we never fought. We never ever fought. She would just tell me, you know, what it was that she thought about things. And then I'd listen to her, and then she'd pretty much get her way. And I have to say to with both my husbands, I'm a fighter, so marriages are different. But when Larry came into my life 6 years ago as my boyfriend, and then took me a while to convince him to ever get married again. Okay, so 3 years ago we got married. And man, just the way, like he said, how we were welcomed. I know a lot of people in town, but I really didn't know car club people. And so that's been a whole new, wonderful group for me. And I'm so glad that I've made new friends, and a lot of it is because of Deanna and Craig. And I said, you know, I've lived here for 25 years, but an awful lot of my friends, my husband, have died or moved away. And I need some new girlfriends. And so she accepted me. I go over and visit with her every once in a while, you know, not as often or as much as what I would have liked to, because we're traveling all weekend. But, oh man, the fun times, you know, and I think she came up with a lot of these ideas for the car club, like the chili cook-off. Okay, so we all made chili. I didn't learn. But others' chili were a lot better. But she would make pots of chili. She would do, you had to bark at the moon with the dogs, and everybody would bring their dogs. And then we'd do shots of Fireball or cinnamon schnapps.
Yeah.
You know?
Hot damn.
Hot damn.
Pardon me?
Hot damn.
Hot damn, yeah, hot damn. And, you know, other things, she was always at all of the meetings. She was always welcoming. She was the kindest, one of the kindest and loveliest women I have ever known. And I'm so glad But I got to know her for, just 6 short years. So I know a lot of us feel that way.
I have one more thing to add. Guess what? She tells me what to do all the time. You do it.
Yeah.
And I do it because the one more thing I wanted to add is I've heard about Deanna's meatballs a number of times. And I don't know about anybody else, but I want the recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a text message I want to share from my sister. And this is during COVID, the early days of COVID. And I live in Portland. Concerned about mom and dad and getting along with groceries and stuff. So I received this text message after finding out mom and dad are going to try and go Safeway to go grocery shopping. And this is probably a month into COVID, maybe. She says, mom and dad going to the grocery store tomorrow. Oops. Lost it. Mom and dad are going to the grocery store tomorrow. They have it all planned out. They're going to shop with gloves and masks. And then when they get to the house, they're going to strip naked before bringing anything into the house. And she's going to use her alcohol wipes to wipe off anything they have touched. And then her final text was, I gave you a little bit of a mental picture, didn't I? And I saved that text forever. So.
Is there anybody on the internet that's listening?
Is there anybody on the internet that has anything to say?
I don't know if we can get the audio to work. We could try. What do you think?
Can you ask them on this mic?
Oh. Does anyone want to try and say something? Oh. There's one. Yep. Well,
I don't know if Rhonda Mullins is with us.
she's raised her. We see you. We'll have to unmute you here and see if the audio works. We're not sure if the audio is going to work.
Wonderful folks. They've been with us for many years. Last year for our 60th wedding anniversary.
We're working on it.
Well, let me start over. All of the ladies in waiting, and Julie, who's sitting up there. She was one of them. She was in my wife's room at our wedding. And her husband.
Can you unmute yourself? Click the microphone.
There you go. Rhonda, I'll get my story out here. Wasn't very organized. All of the girls in Deanna's group had like the flower. Bird of paradise. They all carry this bird of paradise.
It's not working. I don't think we're able to unmute you on our end.
Somehow,
You just would
in finding.
you just hold on that. Maybe she can write.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Do you want to type in what you want to say in the chat?
Can you hear me now?
Now we have the audio.
I think you have me.
They are
Yep.
also the ones that provided the.
But it's, we're not, okay. Okay, hold on.
Okay, thank you.
We're struggling through these technical issues.
That's okay.
But it's so wonderful that have friends and guests like you. There's a few others that I see that are joining us,
Yep.
I think, on the internet. I don't know how that works.
I think we're ready. We're gonna put the microphone. Okay, you can try it now.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say that Craig and Deanna have been our friends for 20 years. We've been coming to the cabins. We started with the baby cabin, and then Deanna showed us the other cabins, and every year we'd get into different cabins, but eventually we ended up with the one at the top being our very favorite. And we spent a lot of time visiting with them. I can't even tell you the picture of the bear there. Me and Deanna were sitting at her kitchen table one time. I was trying to teach her the internet, and all of a sudden we saw that bear on that trash can. She got on the walkie-talkie. She called Craig, said, "There's a bear in the park." And this was in the middle of the daytime. This wasn't at night or the early morning. And of course, I ran to go get my camera. And I just want to say she was just a wonderful, wonderful woman that allowed me to talk to her. And we just had the best times. And I got to talk to her about 11 days before this happened to her. And we were looking forward to this summer. And we were talking about what we are going to do and how many weeks we were going to stay and all that sort of thing. But anyway, I just want to say to the family, wonderful. I wish I could have met y'all in person. And we will miss her. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhonda. Thanks.
Anybody else want to share a experience?
Well, if you can you hear me?
Alabama, and when I heard her say 20, my 45 seemed.
Yes. So the next one? I think so. Did you want to say something?
Primarily, I want to say this to Dawn. I shouldn't need this. I taught 5,000 12, 13, and 14-year-olds. Yet when I stand before adults, who? I am the ghost of Cliffside. I came here in 1978 and decided I want to do a book. I want to do my first book because I'm a teacher. I work 180 days a year at 185 to play. And I said, I want to know one place really well. I want to know it like the back of my hand. I want to know it better than the back of my hand. Look at this park. It's incredible. So I got married the next year. My wife and I came out here, had our daughter, came out here. And we were roughing. I mean, it was all backcountry camping. It was all carrying our kid on our back, and it was tough stuff. One day, my 2-year-old is crying. She's cold. My wife's miserable. It's got to be a backup plan to this. We found Cliffside. I don't even remember. I'd love to embellish the story of how we met, but I don't remember. But I went into one of those cabins, and it was like unbelievable. This is now base camp until I finish this project. Abby, I told you that the project, I was pretty cocky, and I said, this project is going to take me 10 years because I'm going to photograph every lake in the park. I'm going to go to every lake in the park if I have to climb, if I have to crawl, if I have to find Sherpas to carry my gear. We did it. Took 34 years. Dawn, without your parents and your mom, especially, you have no idea what happens to somebody like what I'm trying to do over all that time. Your mom used to make bacon sandwiches and sausage sandwiches for me because she thought I was going to just waste away to nothing. I say I'm the ghost because I always go out at 3 in the morning and then I come back and go right to bed. And then at nighttime, just before dawn, just before dusk, I speed out again. And hi, Craig, hi, Dan, but they were always there. I mean, good God, I would get injured. Deanna not only would find the doctor to send me to, but she'd make the appointment and tell him I was on the way. Incredible. I do remember coming home to the cabin, it's home. Coming home to the cabin, Craig, and seeing Deanna sitting on the porch. And she's sitting there watching our child. So my wife and I could go out hiking. 3 in the morning. She was kind to our dog. Wow, that's rare to find somebody that love your dog and your child. I don't know. We always made sure we were good for a couple weeks at Cliffside, but that was our base camp. But we traveled all over. When the book, I have another vivid memory. I just remember when Brownfields held that event for us when the book was released. And I said, nobody's going to show up. Nobody's going to show up. Nobody's going to be in Estes Park on the Gulfs. I walked into the room, and right there, Craig, you and Deanna were sitting front center right there. And I had to talk to you, and it was like, wow. Wow, she's always been there for me. And you might not know how much that when I'm not here, that you have some idea, because sometimes you answer the phone, how I talk with her. As I'm walking through the swamps of Alabama, I'm talking with your wife. And we're having just the greatest conversations. And, you know, we had a last one. And we use the term loosely, like a family. You guys are. And I always told you mine. She was my older sister. God bless all of you, Estes. You landed in that.
Our history with him has been something kind of remarkable. There would be times he would come back and he would want to be going into the backcountry to photograph another lake or whatever the case may be, and he'd call and we didn't have space. Our cabins were all booked. And he'd say, well, he said, can I park in your driveway? And I said, well, absolutely, you know. And so he had a Toyota pickup, as I recall, and he could camp in the back of his pickup. Well, I positioned him such that if he really wanted to, we sprinkled the lawn at 3 o'clock in the morning and he could go out and get a shower. One time he was parked out there and he'd found a piece of old fence, I think, that I had replaced the wooden slats. And our cabins are called Shady Pine, Lonesome Pine, and Windspring Pine. And on this tree stump, he had written Destitute Pine. And it was by the front of his truck.
I'd like to acknowledge too, Julie Kramer Cole for sure. She went to high school with my parents, and just high school, right? Or was it earlier than that?
CSU.
Yeah, CSU, and she's been part of my parents' life, and she's also my godmother. So she's been an amazing person for mom and dad.
Hey, Kevin, if you can hear me out, I'd like to
Julie
say
is a
something.
Western artist, and she's.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'm from Pier Days, and she's doing pieces for them this year. How many years have you shown there? 11. Where is Grooms? Oh, there he is. I was over at their house one time, Deanna and I were there for dinner or something, and I'm looking at some of the artwork that Grooms had on their walls, and there was one of Julie's paintings. So I told them the history of that. For my 50th birthday, Julie gave me 5 of her friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have someone online, I think.
Did you want to say something?
Yes,
Okay. Yep. Let's try the microphone.
this is Carol and Chris Adams. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the Adams. Oh, yes.
We were coming to Cliffside for 30 years. And the first year we came, I called the visitor center and I said, I would love to come somewhere where I could bring my dog. And without hesitation, they said, you need to go to Cliffside Cottages. So we came, as Rhonda did, to Cliffside and stayed in Shady our first time there and stayed a week. Well, as years went by, we moved to Lonesome. We moved from 1 dog to 2 dogs. Then we went to Whispering, and we went from 2 dogs to 3 dogs. And then what our height of animals was 4 dogs in Whispering, and they never flinched. And we have grown so close to Deanna and Craig. They're some of our closest friends. And last year we stayed for a month, and it was always our favorite vacation. And Deanna and Craig were always so kind to us and helped us with anything we needed. One year in particular, my husband, halfway through our time there, lost his young niece. And we were distraught and didn't know what to do because we had several dogs and how could we get home? Well, Deanna and Craig told us to fly home and they would take care of our animals while we flew home and came back. And if that isn't above and beyond hospitality, I don't know what is. And we'll never forget their kindness, their friendship, their hospitality, and their warmth. And I think just from reading the books of everybody who stayed there, it was uniformly the response from everyone. And we love you, Craig.
Love you, Craig.
You guys have been great.
We're going to miss her so much.
The Adams had a Bernese mountain dog named Sam. And they would come in and always visit before they went up to their cabin, but they'd open the door and I'd usually be out on the property somewhere and Sam would hunt me down. He'd hunt the property over until he found me, and he just was the happiest dog, and he seemed to just really enjoy being at the cabins. And where it was cool, because you guys were coming from Texas.
That's
But
right.
so nice to have you with us today. Thank you
We
so
wouldn't
much.
have missed it. We're sorry we couldn't fly in. We've got 1 dog now that's 20 years old. Abby is still with us, and we just can't leave her very long.
I'd like to say something.
Somebody else.
Okay.
This is Suzanne and Eugene Cottrell from Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi, yes, Cottrell.
Yeah. We have known Dee and Craig for almost 40 years. Our first trip out, we were looking for a cabin, and we just happened to choose our first visit with them. We had our newborn child, and we were so excited about coming out to Colorado, and we just happened to choose Cliffside Cottages. And so we fell in love that summer with Estes Park, Cliffside, and our friendship with Dee and Craig grew over the years. And we didn't come every summer, but we came as many summers as we could. They watched both of our children grow up through our annual Christmas cards, and our vacations out there are our children's favorites. And Dee was such a wonderful person, and we were fortunate enough to visit with her for the last time this past October. And so we will really miss her, and we will miss coming out and her sweet face not being there. So we love you, Craig, and hopefully we'll see you this fall.
Very good. Thanks, guys.
I'd like to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Mary Audie, and we've been coming out. My husband Frank and I have been coming out to Cliffside since 2001. Our first trip out to Estes, we stayed in a cottage that was not particularly pleasant. And one evening we were walking in town and we walked into the poster shop. And the owner of the poster shop, I believe, was a transplant to Estes. And we said, hey, where would you stay if you were to come back and have a longer vacation in Estes? And the first words out of his mouth were Cliffside Cottages. So that next year, made a reservation. And we have been coming almost continuously since 2001. And I have so many just wonderful memories of Craig, or excuse me, of Deanna. Well, you too, Craig, but of Deanna. And we would always come out at the same time as the Adams were out. And so some of my fondest memories were of Craig and Deanna, Chris and Carol, and my husband Frank and I having dinner. I would cook dinner on our deck, and Deanna would always show up with the margaritas and the salt and some sort of a snack. And we would just sit out in the evening on our deck and just laugh and tell stories. And Craig and Deanna would always give us like the little gossipy stuff that they would hear on the police radio about somebody that was just coming into town and trying to hike Long's Peak and, had to be rescued. But just wonderful, wonderful memories of coming out to Estes and staying at Cliffside. And I'll just finish with this. One year, my husband and I came out and we decided to go hike up to Fern Lake. And I was wearing a pair of hiking boots that I'd had for probably 15 years. And they were a little long in the tooth. But I thought maybe I could get another year of hiking out of them. Anyway, started hiking up to Fern Lake, and my boots started coming apart at the soles. And I thought, oh, this is not going to be a big deal. Continued to hike up. We made it up to the lake, decided to turn around and come back. And by the time we were at the bottom of the trailhead, the boot on my right foot was literally a mess. I mean, the bottoms were flapping off. So got back into town. Deanna, of course, directed us to Brownstones because she was working there at the time. And she said, hey, they'll set you up with another pair of hiking boots, which was fine. I went and bought another pair of hiking boots. That next year, well, and then I threw them in the trash. That next year, came back to Cliffside, and there on our porch, because we always stayed in the same cabin, there on our porch were the hiking boots with flowers planted in them. So it was just a nice little tribute from Deanna, to us, and just our wonderful times at Cliffside. So Craig, love you too. We miss you. And the thought of Deanna just always brings a smile to our face.
Thank you, Mary.
I'll let you speak, I guess.
Just one more that just popped into my mind. As Deanna and I became girlfriends, I watched how hard Craig and Deanna worked. And Larry would sometimes help Craig with his 40-year-old computers. Larry is a computer guy. So one of the computers was in the basement. And I happened to realize that the basement steps are about 6 inches wide and steep, as all your homes have. And I said to Larry, you got size 13 shoes. You're gonna kill yourself going down there. Larry says, I know how to do it. I know how to do it. And, you know, he did. And it was a little tricky. But then I said to Deanna, you should not be carrying, you know, all the towels and all the sheets and everything that you do all the time. You should not be going down those steps anymore, Deanna. And I said that to her many times, and I think her daughter said that to her too, her granddaughter. And if you know Diana and Deanna and Craig, you know, they could be a little stubborn too. So she said, Jean, I've done this many, many times. I am just fine. So I'll end on that. And she never fell down them as long as I knew.
Some other guests who are here now. Oh. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna talk for a minute.
Oh, yes. He's our neighbor.
I'm the neighbor of 27 years or so. And I'm also in the cabin rental business, and Craig and Deanna have mentored me in many situations. Most of them kind of funny because Deanna would have some sort of a cuss word to go along with the problem. And they were the ones that told me, whatever you do, allow dogs. You don't have to allow humans, but always allow dogs. You have a guest that brings 10 dogs every September, and they are the loveliest people. You could not have better neighbors than Craig and Deanna. I'm just gonna say that. And they're like best friends of mine, parents of mine, aunt and uncle of mine, dog mom and dad. And I just want to say nice to meet most of you here. I haven't met a lot of you, but I heard a lot of the stories. And thanks for also being their friends.
Hello? Hello?
Some real guests that we haven't, I'm so happy to see, that are not really part of our society up here in Estes Park. We introduced the Fast, Jim and Karen Fast, who Jim's her cousin, lives in Firestone, and they came all the way up from Firestone. There's Jim and Cheryl McQueen over here that come in from Fort Collins. And I think I don't see any of our longtime guests other than those up here now. But it's so nice to have you guys. Well, Ailey, where is she? There she is. Oh, and Kathy, two of the nurses that work with Dawn at the hospital have come up, and they've come from distance. And thanks so much, Kathy, for your help in my granddaughter's medications. Oh, sort of a side story, but yeah, she's been a big help there. Yeah, so anyway, anybody else would like to say anything about their experience with Deanna or something that was memorable for them?
I'll just say one thing. You don't have to. But I moved to Colorado in 2005, and I was newly divorced and all that. And just, just checking it out a little bit. Dawn came to work at the hospital, and then we started camping together and stuff. But our birthdays were one day apart. And how many years did Deanna had me up, and she cooked us, a birthday dinner. And one year she got me some gifts and things like that. We've always stayed in touch. They offered to let me have my wedding at their place, and that ended up being bigger than it was going to end up being. And I just loved them. So we said, forget it. This is getting to be too much. So we just took off and decided not to get married, but we were gonna get married at Cliffside even and have a big party. But Deanna was always so gracious, and it was just so nice to be, you know, kind of new to the area and have a place that, you know, you had kind of a mother-like figure, so. And then there's the girls' weekends, so, and that's all we're gonna say. But we were taking well good care of while we were right there.
All right.
You know, I want to thank everybody.
Now I'm unmuted.
It means a lot to us. And I know Mom was loved by a lot of people, but I also know Mom loved a lot of people. And I really appreciate everyone coming out and having this today. I think with that, if we want to close it up, feel free to stay around. We did that one.
Yeah. Kevin, or Craig, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Greg Hoffman. I'm unmuted.
Oh, okay. Do you want to talk to Craig?
Can I just, well, if I can just add something for a minute to the group.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Hold on for
Hello?
a minute. I need to get a microphone, and everyone's
Okay.
kind of milling around, but it'll be okay.
Okay,
Here we go. We had someone else that wanted to say something.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, go ahead now and try.
Okay.
Is there one more person that would like to say something like that? I was thinking about you the other day. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
You still involved in construction management?
Can you hear me? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. My name is Greg Hoffman. I just want to briefly tell the group and say to Craig, 50 years ago, last year, we honeymooned in Estes Park, and we said every 5 years, if we were still together, we would come out there. Well, 45 years ago, we linked up with Craig and Dee, and it was the best thing that ever happened to us. And we had wonderful times out there year after year, every 5 years when we'd come out, and we're hoped to be out there just in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's kind of something. Yeah, I knew that.
Okay, anyways, I see that as ending now, so I just wanted to at least get that comment in. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you, Greg.
All right. Don't in my truck way over. Right. Thanks for coming. I'm the cameraman. I like it.
Good job.
Yeah. We are so lucky we made it work somehow. I mean, I hit one button and I shut it down. I knocked everybody off the Zoom. So I was like, oh, great. No, boy. Okay.